Hi guys, so I just got done watching a video that was quite frustrating. But on YouTube, it's very easy to come across um, a religious nut job that sways and alters the facts to drive a completely baseless point. And this happens quite a lot in the media and in the news. And, you know, the problem is that people who are opposed to allowing transgender people to use the bathrooms that correspond with their sex identification, a lot of times what they'll do is they alter the facts and they mislead their audience to start a controversy, to start an uproar. And it's very childish. That's all I can say. And, unfortunately, it seems that the worst offenders are religious driven people, are people who are just so out of touch with reality that they feel that it's appropriate to spew bullshit to get their agenda across. And it's funny how there's this war between right wing, ultra conservative psychos versus their belief of these ultra liberal dickbags. And the thing is that I'm in the middle. I don't sway either way. Sometimes one of them is correct, sometimes the other is incorrect. It's not, there is no end all be all greatest cult or whatever you want to call it. So, this video is really just to discuss the facts about transgender bathroom laws because there's just way too much bullshit that's being spewed. So, let's just get the facts out of the way. Yes, I am transgender. However, my driver's license states that I am legally a female as recognized by our government. So the thing is no one's creating a law that specifically allows trans people to use bathrooms. What they're doing is they're creating a general policy or whatever that says that if a trans person uses said bathroom, they cannot be held to any sort of criminal charge. That's what these laws are for. They're not just giving people a pass to fuck people over. They're not giving. How can I say this? The way that these psychotic assholes portray these laws is what they do is they always do the same thing. They always talk from the perspective of a transgender woman, right? So they address transgender women as men. And they do this because they're fucking assholes. That's the only explanation I can get through is just either they were dropped on their head or they're just fucking assholes. So what they'll do is they'll say someone like myself, which I have breasts and everything. I mean, I look like a fucking female, except for the fact that my mustache is just driving me up a wall today. But they'll portray us as men to drive their delusion that we are sex offenders, because we're not. If you actually look at the facts, historically, transgender people are not known to be sex offenders. They are not known to be violent people. And that is more of the rule, but there's always exceptions. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be that one instance where someone happened to be exactly what they're trying to portray. But the problem is, they make it sound like this is a widespread, problem where every transgender person is a sex offender or a pedophile or wants to rape women. And that's not true at all. It is so far from the truth, it's beyond ridiculous. These religious psychotic fucking people, most of them are pastors, they're Republicans, like Ted Cruz, for instance. He is so out of touch with reality, it's ridiculous. But whenever he speaks on it, and you can look this up online, I'm not making this up. If you watch some of his speeches, the way he portrays a civil rights issue is the following. He'll say, you know, when I was a kid, I did not believe that men should be in the women's rooms. And he always does it with that very thick accent, too. And he'll go like, what crazy world do we live in that we allow boys to shower with the women? But the point is, that's not what's actually happening. It is this falsified ideal that trans people are still what they originally were. And it's not true. Trans people don't want to flash their junk at people. You know, when I was put in a mental health facility because of fucking laws, one of the things that they do is they want to search your whole body to kind of figure out, do you have any black and blues? Do you have any scars? Are there any areas of your body that have any history of harm or, you know, cutting yourself or whatever it is? And throughout the entire time, I was covering the two most important areas of me, my breasts as well as my genital area. And they insisted that they had to see what was between my legs, and I refused. I said, you will have to restrain me if you want to see what's between my legs, because that is a private area to me, and I don't want anyone seeing my private area. And that's the fundamental flaw with these psychotic, right-wing, conservative, Bible-thumping assholes, is that they think we're this like monstrous creature that preys on women. We're not. There is no history. There's no facts to back up their very bizarre claims. And yeah, sure, you could spin a story to be this terrible thing, and that's what they're doing. They're using fear tactics to convince you, the person who doesn't know a trans person, the person who's not transgender, they're trying to convince you that we are these monstrous fucking machines, and that's all we want to do. That all we want to do is dress like a girl, go through hormones, change our names legally just so we could fuck people. And that's not what we do. That has nothing to do with it. But the fact is that if you look at the actual science, and of course the religious people just refuse to see what's black and white in front of their fucking faces, is that transgender people are nothing new. We've been around for thousands of years. And transgender, like the concept of trans, exists in the animal world. There's plenty of known mammals and other species that change their sex to adapt and survive. Clownfish, for example, like Finding Nemo. Clownfish are known to change their sex. The moment the female dies, the male will actually change their sex to continue on their species. They do this. This is actual known science. But no, instead, it's the same thing with like homosexuality, where these religious people think it's a choice. Last I checked, homosexuality exists in the animal kingdom too. But the point is, people just take what's different and what they don't understand, and they're afraid of it. It makes them feel uncomfortable. So the only thing they know how to do is act like a child and kick and scream and lie. And that's what what religious groups do. And, you know, I understand there's going to be people who watch this video and they're going to say, Catherine, you're an asshole. Why are you making fun of religion? Not everybody's like that. But you have to understand it from my perspective. At the end of the day, no one is trying to take your religion away from you. No one is. You know, a lot of people go on, oh, they're taking religion out of school, even though religion was never in school from the beginning. They are like, oh, they're trying to remove In God We Trust. Well, In God We Trust was not on our currency until the 50s. Like, these are things that are facts. These are things you can look up and you can prove, and I'm not speaking out of my ass. I've done the research. But instead, people just hide behind their fear. And instead of actually taking the effort and, you know, actually trying to get to know a transgender person, instead they just want to kick and scream and have it their way and talk about family values, talk about all this shit. When look, I used to be like them. When I was a kid growing up, I was raised to believe that LGBT people were the devil. I was raised to believe that. You know, my father would show me a picture and he would go, "Oh, is she pretty? Is she pretty?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." "Oh, that's a guy." Right? So, do you not understand the level of hate that religion actually, like, puts on people? My dad refuses to accept me because of his religion. That he believes that for some reason what I'm doing is a sin and I'm going to go to hell for trying to be myself. So instead of lying and trying to suit everybody else, right? Which is what I was doing. I was lying to people when I was growing up. I was saying, "Yeah, I'm a guy." But I wasn't. I truly wasn't a guy growing up. I've always had the heart and soul of a woman or girl, whatever. And it's only now that I'm able to actually express myself without the fear of backlash. That's why I take hormones. That's why I'm trying to look the part, because that's who I am. But instead, I have to deal with a society that hasn't learned from their past mistakes. Society keeps on running into the same brick wall generation after generation. You know, like my dad, for instance, the irony is that he's in an interracially mixed marriage, right? So he believes that gay people shouldn't marry, yet his marriage was not sanctioned back in the day. Back in the 60s, you were fucking insane if you thought that you could get married if you're white and you wanted to marry a Hispanic, or if you wanted to marry a black person. You were insane back in the 60s because that's what they believed. They believed this fucked up mentality that you should not interracially mix, which is such a bullshit thing. And it's funny considering that my family is very interracially mixed. I mean, my brother's Puerto Rican. He's dating a Filipino girl. I mean, that's interracially mixed. You know, my mom was white. My dad was Puerto Rican. You know, my dad, he had brothers and sisters that were black. And they married white people, Hispanic, Asians. It's an interracially mixed family. So I was brought up on the fact that, you know, fuck prejudice. Prejudice is wrong. You need to look at people for who they truly are, not what they are. And it's sad that those same people who had to deal with prejudice growing up, who had to deal with the fact that, well, because they're African Americans, they're going to be treated differently. These are the same fucking people that turn around and say to me that I don't deserve my civil rights because what I did was a choice. It wasn't a fucking choice. I didn't choose to be trans. I didn't choose at the age of 7 to desire, like uncontrollably desire to become a girl. I didn't know why I felt that way. And if you look at psychology and all the research that's been put into that, it's not a mental illness. It's not some sort of psychosis. It's not some coping mechanism for child abuse or anything of that sort. It's that we are truly born with a brain that's opposite of the body. This has been scientifically proven. They have done dissections of actual trans brains and cis people brains, and they've done comparisons and found that, look, our brains are honestly not that different. And it's been proven that I possess a female brain, and your brain is who you are. Who you are is in your head. It's between your ears, not your legs. But people, including my asshole dad, and I'm calling him out in this video because I'm tired of his shit, but he believes that what defines you is between your legs. Last I checked, I don't have thought process in my dick. Okay? It's in my brain. That's who I am. That's where my soul resides. But instead, you know, there's always going to be people who have this old world mentality, refuse to look at progress. I mean, the human race is based off of progress. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have electricity. We wouldn't have cars. We wouldn't have, you know, we wouldn't be flying outside of space. But the point is, we take what we can't or what we don't know and we learn about it. We do the research. We put in the effort to better our society. And what we're facing is we're facing a large group of people who refuse to change. They refuse to look at that, hey, fuck, We were crazy back then. We did not truly understand human nature. But we're learning about human nature. We're learning more about ourselves. We're learning that there is so much complexity to our brains. It's ridiculous. We don't understand more than 10% of what our brains actually do. But that's just the thing. It's just, instead of attacking blindly and making up bullshit, because if I hear it one more time, oh, this law is going to allow men, yes, men, to use the women's room. Do you know that there's a flip side to that coin, right? Because you know what's fucking insane is they never, ever talk about trans men. And here's the thing, trans men exist just as commonly as trans women. Fuck, the group I go to consists of like 75% trans men. There's actually, I know more trans men than I know trans women. And that's a fact. But the point is, like, you'll never hear on the news or by a pastor, you'll never hear them say, think about the safety of our boys, you know, they can't have a woman going in there. Like, they never say that. It's a double standard. It's this whole shit idea that only men can be, you know, criminals. Only men, you know, want to fuck everything with a hole. It's not the only case. There's, you know, women can be rapists too. But it's just that, this rant has gone on long enough, but I'm so passionate about this because it's every aspect of my life, right? That, you know, I go online and I look up the topic transgender, and I look at what is the current trends, what are the current news stories, and I just hate that it's always something negative. It's always, you know, a trans woman is murdered because some jackass felt that it was necessary to kill an innocent person, right? But you never read a story of a trans woman murdering people. If it has happened, fine. I'm not saying that all transgender people are saints and that they have absolutely no flaws. I'm not saying that. You know, they could kill just as any other person. But the point is, if you look at statistics, you'll find that it is more likely that a transgender woman will be the victim and not the perpetrator. However, you don't get that sense when you hear stupid shit being spewed by these politicians and being spewed by these religious psychos who'll say, nope, guys should not be in the women's room. Guys shouldn't do this. Protect your daughters. Protect your wives. Blah, 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 blah. It's always about that, right? Well, what about me? Where are my protections? And then they always go, oh, the safety of others should not be at risk for the preferences of the few. It's not a fucking preference. I am a woman. I went through all of the hassles to achieve that status, that I am recognized by our government as a woman. But instead, we have these jackasses that'll go, well, actually, it doesn't matter what you've changed your legal sex to. We're going to base this strictly off of your biological sex. Okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to have someone like me, when I'm all dolled up, I'm not even wearing any makeup, but you're going to have me when I'm all dolled up, you're going to actually make me pull my pants down and show you what's between my legs? Is that what you're going to do? Is that how you're going to enforce a unrealistic policy of forcing people to use the bathrooms that corresponded with the way they were assigned? The way that some doctor looked between your legs and said, oh, looks like a dick. You're a guy. You're going to love football. You're going to love sports. You're going to love dirt. No, it doesn't work that way. You know? But, like, it's mind-boggling just how, like, ridiculous they're being. And the thing is, don't get me wrong, if I knew nothing about transgender people, if I was this completely in the dark dumbass who's been under a rock for the past 30 years, and I hear Ted Cruz saying, hey, there's this crazy shit that we're allowing boys to go in the girls' room, this is weird, of course I would probably think the same thing. I'd be like, what the fuck? But the problem is they're not telling you the entire story. They're portraying women as men to get you riled up. Like they got me riled up. Because the thing is, if you've seen some of these trans women that I know, they're indistinguishable between cis women and trans women. They look the same. They have the same body proportions. But the thing is that there's this stereotype that all transgender women look like men. Trust me, trans women I know, you could never mistake them for a man. And I'm not even like tooting my own horn. I'm sure some of you guys will be like, are you a guy or a girl? Because I don't invest a lot of effort into my makeup. I don't. I usually wear eyeliner, which clearly I'm not doing that right now. And I also wear mascara, and I usually wear lipstick. But I'm not wearing that right now. My hair is always like nice and long. I put highlights in it. As I said, like, this is what my body is like now. I guess I can even like go and like, you see, like, this is what I look like from the side. You know, I have to lose a little bit of weight, but like, are you really gonna mistake me for a guy? Like, I I can't get it. And as I said, like it's my face, like, and my eyes. Like, I don't know how you could necessarily immediately assume that I'm male, because I'm not. And trust me, I've been using the women's room exclusively since November of 2014. Right? Yeah, November of 2014. So it's been over, maybe 12, was it like 14 months? 13 months? Around that? I'd probably say about 14 months now. I've been using the women's room. And not once have I ever been given a dirty look or a stare. Never has there ever been an incident where someone questions me or says, "What are you doing in the women's room?" No one's fucking done this to me. And that's because I have what's called passing privilege, which not every person has. And I'm fortunate to have this. But, at the end of the day, there is absolutely no reason to concern yourself and think that by allowing a transgender woman to use the women's room, you're not putting anyone at risk. If you think that there is a risk, I would invite you to look up the statistics. Look up all the known reported crimes. And again, yeah, you'll probably find one, maybe two people. But again, that's no different. I'm sure you could find more women raping women in the women's room than a trans person committing any sort of crime. And it's that kind of mentality that needs to change. We need people to grow the fuck up, stop believing in this spiritual fairy god, and start actually taking care of our own. Understand that your daughters are not at risk by allowing someone like myself to use the women's room. I'm at risk if you force me to use a men's room, because if I use the men's room, chances are I'm going to get raped. Chances are I'm going to be beat up. Because the thing is that I look like a woman. And I'm not in normal society, in normal day-to-day life, I don't rant like this. So I tend to be a lot more soft-spoken, with a smile on my face, like, I can't make that face here for you guys. But the thing is that I am not a risk to anybody. But I am at risk of being harmed by the sheer ignorance of people in this society. So this is the end of this video and this rant. If you guys want to dispute everything I've said, go for it. Knock your socks off. But the point is, I'm right. And, as I said, I'm basing this off of logic as well as facts. As I said, there is absolutely no reason why you should fear a transgender person from using the bathrooms. There really isn't. And as I said, if they actually made a law that forced trans people to use the bathrooms that match their birth gender or whatever, you're going to have some serious problems, because I know a lot of trans men that, yeah, they were born with vaginas, but they look like fucking, like, Paul Bunyan. Like, we're talking full beard, muscles, and, like, hairy-ass chests. Like, you could not tell them apart from any other cis man. fuck, some of them look scarier than any cis man I've ever met. So if they really want to pull this shit, and there actually was this movement where trans men were actually going in the women's room with their friend, of course, to kind of stage and just show what it would look like if these laws actually passed. If the politicians had their way and said, well, you were born female, therefore you must go into the women's room, and you're born male and you should go into the men's room. Yeah. And I've thought about with some of my trans friends, like I was thinking of going to the men's room with them, of course when there's no other guys in there, but just doing the same thing. Like, do I belong in the men's room? Like, it's that kind of thing where honestly I don't. So take care, guys. Look out for future videos. I urge everybody who watches this to really just, just take the time to do the research. Take the time to open up your mind. Don't be thick-headed. Don't be, quick to say, oh, you're trans, you're going to hell, you're going to die, you're a demon, whatever fucking thing that you guys pull out of your ass. But actually, just show a little bit of compassion. That's what your religion's based on, right? Is that you shouldn't be judging people. So maybe you should, follow the teachings of your religion and actually do what you preach for once. Actually, look out for your fellow human. Because I'm a human. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I have between my legs. At the end of the day, I'm a human. And I'm not perfect. I'm not. I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm not saying I'm a perfect saint. But at the end of the day, I have no criminal record. Because I'm an honest, caring, good person. And my record shows that. So, yeah. Take care, guys. Look out for future videos.